I just finished the official Ironman Louisville video.
I saw that was posted. I have yet to have a chance to experience it yet.
Oh, you did see? Oh yeah, I guess I posted it. I haven't really posted it on the website yet. And
No, I saw where you put it on Twitter, but I haven't read it yet,
yeah,
or I haven't watched it yet.
turned out pretty good. We got a couple Wasky appearances.
Oh yeah,
Ann makes it, of course, and even Jimmy has a cameo.
yes, it's not a crushing iron video without Jim.
This is true.
Jim's kind of the Washington State flag of college game day for CI videos.
He is. How do they? That's pretty outstanding how they do that. By the way, I saw him at the
It is.
Cubs post game too.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is.
That was a pretty good stunt by somebody, and I wonder who finances that move.
Well, I guarantee you that they've got just like a Facebook group or like some kind of alumni thing in the whatever city, and like you claim that you're the one that's going to go get it, and so you head out and you're the one that's there. But they got them everywhere. But yeah, I think it's a pretty impressive streak.
It is, and it's a big marathon weekend out there too. By the way,
What's that?
it's a big weekend for marathons.
It is a big weekend for marathons. Big weekend for
We
marathons.
had Indianapolis and Savannah today, right? And New York's tomorrow.
Yep, New York's tomorrow. Should be good weather. Um, can't really complain with the good weather.
What's that guy's name? Keb Mo? What's his name? Is he gonna win
Who?
it? Keb? Is he up there?
Oh, I have no idea. My current marathon knowledge is limited.
You just know how to coach him.
Yeah, I can't coach the Kenyans, but I'm pretty good at coaching the age grouper.
I bet you could coach the Kenyans. You just put them out there, dude.
Just, just put them out there, run, a couple hundred miles a week, um, and hang on for dear life, and then I'll just take all the credit.
Yeah, you know how to run it. Go get it, buddy.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Go get it, buddy.
Stay away from the hot coffee from Kramer.
Yeah, seriously.
Jean Paul.
What a great episode.
He oversleeps. That's like that should have been me.
That's a great Mike Trolley episode.
Yeah. So what are we going to dive into here?
I guess I really just had two good topics. I thought was one was prioritizing your off season, what to focus on and what to kind of just maintain, and then also obviously how to successfully plan your 2017 race calendar.
Right. Let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. Let's rock and roll.
Let's focus on the part one of that. Planning.
Yes, race planning. Tis the season. This is the time of year where everybody is debating on what to do, what not to do next year, and the pressure's on. I think this is a very busy time of year for coaches because people are usually looking either to stay with their current coach or transfer and get a new coach, which is unfortunately a little too common, I think, in triathlon especially. Or more importantly, people are debating on getting a coach for the first time. I just recently started with a new athlete, and she was looking at her calendar and sent me like three different races that she thought would be good to go to. And one was Santa Rosa 70.3, which was in early May. There was another one in June, which was I think 70.3 Mont Tremblant, and then debating on like a really really late season Ironman. I think the Arizona was the first on her list, and just kind of stepping back to knowing the athlete, but for the athlete who isn't coached and who is self-coached, a lot of people will look at the race calendar and just really pick what race looks the best for them, and then they kind of plan backwards. They plan their life around it. They just kind of assume it's going to work, which is the opposite. You should look at your life calendar and think about what time of year is the least amount of stress, whether it's work or family. Um, and then look at, a specific time of year. So for this athlete, she's married and has two kids. One of them is about to graduate high school and go to college.
Hmm.
And so one of the first kind of red flags for me when she suggested an early May race was, well, early May is when you got high school graduation. Uh, so that's obviously something you're not going to want to miss. And you're not even sure what day that's going to fall on. So a first or second week May 70.3 really isn't going to be ideal, and neither is a August race, early to mid August race, because as far as I know, you're probably not going to want to miss your son's first weekend at college and taking him and getting him moved in and all that kind of stuff. Trying to balance a 70.3 and do well on top of that, it just creates a lot of stress. So I had to actually bring that up to her, and think, oh, that might not be a good idea. All right, so let's look at months where you have the fewest amount of life commitments, the fewest amount of outside stress, and let's work backwards. And so I always think that before you even get to your own personal strengths and weaknesses and how they correlate to a specific course, I think it's always a good idea to look at the best time of year and the best months of the year where you can actually put together a really great performance, because you're going to be stressed enough as it is, with the
Right.
race. Why do you want to add on additional family stress and life stress, and then feel like, hey, you're sacrificing, not doing good enough at one, both, or all. So that's kind of the first step, I think, is prioritizing the time and the months of the year, or even weeks, span of weeks. This is the best. This is the best, kind of two spots of the year that I can really succeed, and then work backwards.
Right. That's a good idea. And considering I have nothing going on all next year, I'll do races whenever I want.
You're a terrible example of the typical age group athlete. Uh, so you know, makes their own schedule, and no, not married, no kids. I know Maddie can be kind of high maintenance, but hey, it seems to be pretty well able to accommodate your training and racing schedule. So you got to kind of get everything going for you.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, you got to kind of take into consideration, um, work, family, other life responsibilities. Do you like training in the winter? Or do you not like training in the winter? Do you want to run early season half marathon or full marathon, or do you not want to do that? And so there's so many different things you kind of need to um, take into account and ask yourself before you even begin to put certain races into a bucket of, hey, can I succeed at these races or can I not?
Right. Well, I am definitely taking your approach on. Uh, this year I felt like my best training was immediately following my half. I did not take. I took one day off and then just went right back into it, and I felt like that was my biggest jump. So obviously, after you do your full late in the year, it's very tempting, and to just sort of let it all go. And in reality, that's the best training day of the year on in a lot of respects. So I've tried to keep it going, and I've had three real strategies for that in just the off season, and they're basically revolve around what I feel like doing, and what sounds more fun, and how can I work fun into training. And then, like for example, I've been getting on my bike a lot lately, but it's been my mountain bike. It's just for whatever reason that is a much more pleasurable ride for me.
Oh
So
yeah.
so um, I have cages on the bike, and I just sort of like get out there and throw tennis shoes on and jump on with shorts, and I can ride. I don't have to gear up and get too specific with my nutrition or whatever. But
Hmm.
but what I've been doing is riding a hilly route, and basically I kind of casually ride, and then but I've been going up the hills hard. So this is in contrast to my running lately, which I've been trying to keep going as well. But on my runs, I run the similar path, which is very hilly. But what I've been doing on the runs to enjoy them more is walking up hills.
Mm.
And so I what happens is I get more leg time, and it's unbelievable what a relief it is when you come up to one of these big hills and you know you get to walk up it. Um,
Yeah.
and it, like the other day I went out for an hour and a half and I got about nine, maybe 8 to 9, like 9 miles maybe. But, it was an hour and a half run and I didn't feel like it just fried me. But the way I look at it is like you're walking up a hill is that's no picnic either. You know what I mean? It's kind of getting that same, up on your toes sort of deal. So you're climbing a hill. But anyway, the whole deal is that, it doesn't seem as straining or like a pain in the ass to run some or get out there and go some long miles. And
Yeah.
so the third thing is with my swimming is I'm just trying to get in the pool every other day or every third day and just do 1,000, 1,000 maybe to 1,500 broken up in 500s or something like that. Because what happens is normally when I enter the new year, I'm just completely lost my swim and I'm playing major catch up. But this way, I feel like, well, if I'm already starting the year with a 1,500 in me, I'm going to be way ahead of the game. You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's kind of like, still going, keeping a base. I'm not really working a hard base, but I suppose the longer stuff will come after the first of the year anyway. You build up for that longer thing. But I am sort of focusing on halves, at least early, half marathons and half Ironman races. So I'm kind of like just trying to keep in the ballpark with that, so I'm not starting off way behind the eight ball.
Yep. Yeah, this is a great time of year to mountain bike. I mean, this is a good time of year where I really try to take a lot of freedom with my athletes. Um, because you're so far away from your next year's race. Most people are coming off a late season Ironman, and the biggest difference is the weather. If I'm telling them to do, scale back and let's get back to some turbo sessions on the trainer, and then there's an hour and a half, and they text me and say, hey, it's still 70 degrees. I know it's November, but it's still 70 degrees and it's beautiful outside. Can I go, can I take my mountain bike out and ride for 3 hours? Absolutely.
Wow.
That is a no-brainer. It's no question. Get outside, enjoy it while you can, because, the winter months will be here. And at some point, you're not going to have the option to do an outdoor mountain bike for most people. So it's great cross training. I also in the fall and maybe late winter, good into spring months, I'll occasionally throw in like a 2-hour hike.
Yeah.
For athletes, as some cross training, throw on like a 35, 40-pound pack, and go hike for about 2 hours. Go out to, if they're in, find a local park, and the amount of work you'll do, lower body, just a great long endurance day. Frees the mind, lets you get outside, go by yourself, go with some family, go with some friends. Just a nice little way to continue to break up the monotony that is about to come as the year progresses.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, it's a little bit like hiking, but that I played frisbee golf for the first time the other day. That was kind of funny to think about, but man, that is kind of a workout. And it's what I found interesting about it was I was just a little bit sore in a lot of places, and I knew that was working different muscles. And this course was kind of hilly, so there's a lot of walking uphill and hiking uphill and things like that. But you really use your core in that thing, and it's not like an extreme core workout or anything like that. But I think it just sort of like reminds a lot of your muscles that they need to be worked too or whatever. So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a quick hour to hour and a half deal, and you can kind of go out there, and it's a whole nother element to, training. I think that, this is one of those things like people are always sore, doing Ironman training and stuff like that. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we don't get an overall workout. And I know the cross training, the 3-sport thing is a lot better than running, and we talked about that, I think that last time. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of other things you can do. Like when we were kids. I mean, you're used to moving your ankles all different ways, and I think like even trail running is a really good thing to kind of get your legs in better shape than just that
Oh, absolutely.
straight, your ankles are never flinching on pavement.
Yep.
But those little things like that really go a long ways, I think.
Yep. Definitely.
Um, and what else did you have there?
That was about it as far as doing different things for the off season. But obviously, when you get back to focusing on what kind of races to pick once the season gets going, and there's so many different variables you have to take into account if you're looking to really do well and succeed. It's just a lot of planning needs to go into it. Hopefully, not just that race looks fun, I'll do that one. Which I think is great. But if you're really looking for your best performance, there's a lot of things you need to take into account.
Yeah. So I mean, like, when you drop, do you prefer your athletes to be on sort of a year-round plan? Because there's a lot of things like you see out there, like 10 weeks to Ironman, or 14 weeks or 18 weeks and things of that nature. Do you prefer it when you can work with athletes year-round, even in a looser way in the off-season kind of thing, or how does that?
Yeah, I mean it's a that's off season is kind of, I guess, a relative term depending on when your main race is. You're always training. I would say 90% of my athletes are year round. And you see the 10-week Ironman or the 18-week Ironman or the 20-week whatever, and there's just a huge difference in, are you looking for a training plan or are you looking for a relationship with the coach? Which I think are two very, very different approaches. One is more, I want to finish. One is, I'm looking to minimize my own stress and what I have to take into account. And then also, do I really want to improve? And a lot of times you just need someone who's objective. And sometimes that's all it is objectivity. Somebody to say, slow down, which is usually what it is. I mean, rarely do I have to have a person say, all right, you need to speed it up some. It's usually slow them down or take a rest.
Yeah.
And it's building out an annual plan, which is what I do. I'll spend November, December kind of sketching out what your entire 2017 will look like. Based on the number of hours you have to train in a week. Or if it's training stress, where we need to get to in order to get your A race. And we kind of start from where you want to go and then work backwards. I mean, that gives me an idea of, if we want to get to where you're training at 17 hours in May to do well at a May race, and you ultimately want to average 14 to 15 throughout the entire year, well, those numbers need to be taken into account on day one. And there really just is no substitute for just continuing to work, and I just have, it allows you to address certain things and also hang on, to, like you said, late Ironman fitness, we know what your weaknesses are. I have a couple athletes who this winter, it's all about running. It's 5 or 6 days a week. We can hold on to your bike fitness and let's just run a lot, and do it safely, but let's run a lot. And it's just that being able to be with someone through an entire season and build up. It also just gives you more time to get to know somebody. What their personality is like, when you can just tell that they're mentally breaking down and they need a break. Are they getting grumpy? Are they getting too excited? Or are they, or a lot of things you'll see is, are they race chasing? Do they want to race 4 times in a month? Do they, are they just can't wait? I got to race. Well, do you really? I mean, no, you don't. You just need to put another week together. And until you can string together 2 or 3 weeks without any hiccups, and we won't even need to be talking about racing, because you're just you're not ready. If you just want to race to do races, then that's fine. But if you want to race to do well, then you got to really prioritize your entire year.
Hey, I'm going to bring up a topic that just came to my mind while you're talking about that. You know how everybody says that it's the hardest thing to do is to get faster in the water. You know,
Hmm.
is that a fair
I would definitely say that's
blanket
fair.
statement? But I want to question
Yep.
that for just a little bit because um, now if we look at it in percentage time, relative time to how long that swim takes, for example,
Yep.
percentage increase. I almost would even like to throw out a theory that it isn't as far off as we think it is. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when people start running, sure, yeah, like their first, you know, marathon is going to be, they can cut like a half hour off of it. But in relative time, you know, like a good, like if you work hard, you might be able to cut 10 minutes off your swim, and that's a pretty big percentage of time. You know what I'm saying? So I guess the question becomes like in your mind, like how do you make the biggest gains in running and biking in the off season? You're how do you make the biggest gains in your opinion?
Well, again, it kind of goes back to what are you focusing on?
Mm-hmm.
If you are focusing on full distance Ironman, then this is the time of year to build up durability. I had this conversation with an athlete just earlier today who's racing the New York Marathon tomorrow, um, and had to very politely remind them when they asked me, when is it okay to speed up and pick it up a bit? I'm like, it's not okay. You're 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 doing a marathon. It's not about who can go the fastest. It's about who can slow down the least. Um,
Mm.
if you get to mile 18 and mile 20 and you have yet to walk and you're maintaining a pace, then you can flirt with pulling whatever trigger you think you have left. but the chances are when that time comes, you're not going to feel so antsy to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And you probably won't have one left, which is better than trying to pull it earlier and end up walking. And so, it's the durability this time of year, building the foundation, building, I told an athlete, had to explain this to him last year, was, hey, right now we're training so that we can train to train the way we need to. If you really want to perform well in August and September, then right now we need to work hard and build a really, really good foundation. So when it's time for us to really ramp up the hours and ramp up the volume and ramp up the intensity, you've done the training to where your body can handle it.
Yeah.
Then at that point, can we really start to see some big performance gains? So for running, this is the time of year to really build durability, and run frequently. Don't run with the set pace. Don't run with the set mileage. Run for time and volume, and just continue to string it together and just build that durability. And once you get into the season, you can build in some speed work. A lot of people throw in speed work like the first week that they try to get faster at running. Well, that's an outstanding way to get a stress fracture or to break down your body. You see the same athletes over and over and over again with the walking boot on. Well, what happened? Oh, I pushed it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you built up enough durability, A, you're going to know what your limits are, but B, you're going to be so much more of a resilient athlete that you're going to the percentages of you having another stress fracture are a lot less. Cycling wise, especially if you're again doing a 70.3 or more so a full distance, as the season gets going, you're going to lose some of your higher end threshold numbers. For cycling, it's your people always want to know what their functional threshold power is, your FTP. That right now is the time of year where you want to build that, so you can have the room to actually lose some of it. You might have I'll give you for me example. For right before Ironman Wisconsin, the last test I did was in June, and I was at about 285.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do another test, but I just used that for kind of my baseline for the zones and the numbers I needed to hit for the rest of the duration. Because at that point, you don't. It's more about the duration you can hold a certain power for, not raising it. So you're going to lose a little bit of power. So when I retested 2 weeks ago after 3 months of Ironman training and about 2 months totally off, my number had dropped substantially,
Huh.
like 40 watts substantially. Um, and so you got to think about it like that's how you have to build your season. You're building, for a cycling, you want to build a number so high that you can keep a much lower number and that's still fast. If that makes sense. So if you want to have a real time, cycling FTP power of 300, well, in the spring, the fall, winter, and early spring, you're going to want to probably build it to about 320, because you're going to lose just a little bit leading up to the race, because you're doing more longer, slower, consistent, steady rides, not because not trying to crush yourself with short intervals. So now is a great time of year to use a program like Trainer Road, use short workouts that are just all out and just keep them short and sweet. Go out for an hour, pound it, raise that threshold over the winter months, and then let it rip once you get on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, just using me for an example, it's been curious because I've done 4 Ironman now, and 3 of those marathon times are within a minute of each other. So if you step back and kind of looked at that, what, how would you analyze that? I mean, that's obviously me just holding on a run. I mean, that's not a. I've never felt like I've had a run. So
Yeah.
um, to me, that points to just my base in running and cycling. Is that what you would?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great place to start. The first question I would ask you is, under somewhat similar conditions, are you running that because that's just what you think you can run? Um, I think I can run like a 420.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in your mind, are you just kind of self-calibrated to where that's pretty much what you're gonna do anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, oh, you end up around 419, 420, 421, 418. Like, are you running to get that time, or are you running to run as fast as you can go? Now, if you think you're just holding on the whole time, then I would say that, it's not so much a speed issue as it is, continuing to work on your speed, but maybe work on your durability so that you don't break down as much, so you're not having to hold on. If you can not feel like you're holding on till about mile 20, then that's better than just trying to hold on to around mile 17 or 18.
Yeah.
If you can keep building on it, if you can keep consistent, and I think for you specifically, just knowing your background and knowing how you approach each and every season, it may be that because you tend to start doing it around the same time every year, so you get what you get. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you get your 12 or 8 or 12 or 16 weeks of Ironman running, and that yields you a 420. And you start around the same time of year. You do kind of the same things. Your body kind of knows it. So, like I said, you get what you get.
Yeah.
Would it be interesting to see what you would get if you started to build a little bit of it in, March? Yeah, I think it would probably yield um, a little bit different result. But you never know. You won't know until you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that I felt like at Wisconsin this year, I probably could have cut about 10 minutes off of that time. But circumstances and where I wanted to end up, I just didn't feel like it was worth the risk. So I was just
Sure.
being a little more cautious on the backside. But I do think that, yeah, I mean, whenever I think about it, I've tried to find the optimal solution with the least amount of effort. And I think that comes back to haunt me because I don't put in enough miles. going into last year when I did Chattanooga, I was running a lot. I was up there in the run, but I didn't have the bike there, so as far as mileage, I mean, my bike was fast, but I just couldn't turn it up on the run, even though I was running up to 18 miles. And I was actually,
Hmm.
I felt like I was excited to run, and then I didn't get to run. So I think that's kind of what most people face, is that they want to get off that bike and run like they know they can, but they can't.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And it all starts earlier in the year. You can only play catch up to an extent before it all starts to kind of fall apart. You can't really continue to play catch up. You can just build on what you have. And at a certain point, you're always starting back at the same place, or you're really getting faster.
Yeah.
If you're going to equate your athletic, ability, if you're going to so for example, if you're going to equate your athletic potential on a scale of 1 to 100, and every year you get to 80, you think 80% at my Ironman, I was 80% of the best I could be, but yet you let it drop every year to 50. Well, you're only going to get back to 80. Now, if you only let it drop back to 60, well, maybe the next year you can get it all up to 90. And then the next year, after your 90%, reach, you don't take as much time off, and you only let it drop to 70. So at some point you want to build off each year, not just start over. And
Yeah.
that's what so many athletes do, is they just literally start over. Or
Yeah.
whether that's because they just don't want to train in the off season. Most of the time it's because they get so burnt out that they don't want to keep training. I mean, I really enjoy, and I really feel like I do a really, really good job coaching an athlete when, after 2 weeks after their Ironman, they're asking me if they can keep training. Not if they can race again, but if they can get back to training. Regardless of what what their Ironman time was, if it was super successful, it was okay successful, if it was poor, them wanting to get back to training, shows me a few things. One, they enjoy what they're doing. They're not burnt out. They feel like it brings a positive aspect to their life, and they feel weird without triathlon or the triathlon training as part of their daily routine and schedule. And they like the process of getting better. And if you like all of those things and you can do that year round, then you're eventually going to get to you're going to reach your potential. And if you can continue to do it year after year without getting injured, again, you're going to reach your potential. It just takes a lot of patience, which most of us don't have, myself included.
Well, you're big on using the word building foundation and building your chassis, and I think that's really, for me, what it kind of comes down to too, because now, whether it be weight training or hiking and things like that, sort of those anaerobic kind of muscle builders that put you in a position to go harder next year and be able to push your body a little bit further. Yeah, it's an interesting analogy you use with that 50, 60, 70% thing, because it's just incremental gains that you want to capitalize on momentum. I mean, momentum is everything. And
Yeah.
if you can sort of keep it going, and that's why I was kind of mentioning that earlier about figuring out ways to cross-train the cross-train and just keep it more enjoyable but still effective in the off-season. And that's my focus right now, is just to keep it going, because it is a grind, and then at some point you want it to be enjoyable, and it's like anything, if you sit down to write every day, you get to be, it's easier. Or if reading or whatever it is, you just build your body or your mind in that shape. And if you're used to writing 10 pages a day all year, then writing 5 or 6 is a piece of cake, but you're still doing it.
Yep. It's you got to be okay not doing the sexy stuff, not doing the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram worthy posts of your GPS device in the winter, and just doing the mileage and doing the volume and doing the stuff that's boring and monotonous, and there's not much variety to it. Um, but knowing that when the time comes, you're going to be able to, reach your potential. And when it's time to start doing the stuff that really means it, you'll be ready. And you're not going to be the person that uses the excuse every single race. So, yeah, I've been some nagging, some injuries. I just been kind of broken down and overtrained, and haven't season hasn't really gone the way I would hoped it would have. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's because it's your own fault.
Yeah.
You started training too late. You tried to be a big shot and run 5-mile repeats on the track, and PR a training day when you just ruined your race.
Yeah.
Your nagging injuries in the summer and spring can more than likely be solved by appropriate volume increase in the winter.
And what I think a lot of that comes down to, and I fight it, everyone fights it, and you pointed it out about PR and a training day, and I think, I think it's unrealistic to tell people to kind of put down, leave their watch at home. But what I've tried to do is, a lot of times I will force or try to force myself to go slower and things like that, and it's very hard to look down at your watch and see, man, you're not going what you would like to go. But if you can flip your mind in a sense of letting go of the ego and looking at that as an exercise in patience, so if you're used to running a 8.5 minute mile, and can you challenge yourself to be patient enough to run a 10-minute mile or something like that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like where you can make it a positive goal even though it's slower. I think that's a huge mindset, at least for me in training, is that can I successfully go out there and not overdo it? I mean, that's
absolutely
one of the hardest things to do. But, I think that's the hard part about wearing a watch all the time and tracking all your mileage and everything like that, because you don't want to look down and see that, you went 6 miles an hour and a half or whatever. And it's just like, it's hard to accept. But I think that if we could change our mindset into like that's the success, and trust it over the long haul.
Or just simply, I had some athletes that I think are they're consistently running the same pace no matter what the run is. They're staring at their watches, and that's it. They've stared their way into running a pace no matter what their fitness is.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people that are looking at longer duration stuff, so you really gotta kind of calibrate your internal clock, your internal GPS, your internal power meter, and go by feel. And for some people, I'll have them, I'll make it into a kind of a game. I want you to run, run for an hour, and I want you to, descend, start at around a 10-minute mile, and I want you to descend about a 15-second down all the way until you get to the hour, and set your watch for every 10 minutes. And before you look at it, I want you to guess what your pace is.
Yeah, I like that.
And it keeps the game. It kind of keeps you kind of going by feel and being really in touch with your body and your breathing and the moment. And if you can get it to where you're pretty much if you're within 5 to 7 seconds, you're on it. If you're off by like 20 to 30, then you got a lot of work to do. But it really kind of shows people like, oh man, like, because you get trapped into only thinking you can do a pace, and whether that's good or bad, and you're pace chasing, and go out and run for your easy run. Well, what if your easy run is a little bit faster than you think, and you just didn't know it because you think it's 8:34, and that's just what you do. You do 8:34s. Well, at some point your body's going to be like, wait a minute, man, I put the work in. Why am I not getting faster?
Yeah.
And so it'll be time to do that. So that's always something good to tell people is to, set an alert on your watch every 10 minutes, try to descend a little bit, and see if you can guess your pace. It'll show you not only, can I self-calibrate, but can I descend appropriately? When I need to push, do I push the right amount, or do I push too much? Most of the time, people push too much. So it's a great way to, like I said, take your eyes off the GPS a little bit and and just kind of recalibrate the body.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that concept of self-calibration. Um, and a lot of times, like when I run with just my timer, and I'll go on the greenway and I'll do that with the quarter miles,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just run a quarter mile blind and look down every time I cross that stake, and I try to be within, like you said, 3 to 5 seconds
Yeah.
consistently, and that may be 2 minute per quarter mile. It may be a little bit faster, and it may be 2:15 or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out what that means and what that feels like more than anything. So I think that's cool.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to end today. Actually, the
I do.
self-calibration.
I do too. Yeah. Self-calibration.
Yeah. So we'll pick this up next time.
Sounds
Um,
good.
until then,
I'll
stay
talk to you soon.
tuned to Crushing Iron.
Yes, please do.
All right, man.
Go watch the Louisville video.
Oh yeah, Louisville videos on the way. So thanks for playing. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. See you, man.
All right. Bye-bye.